Hey guys, this is Miss A, and today we are talking about paragraphs. Now, paragraphs is hopefully something that you already kind of know a little bit about, so we're going to fly through some of this information. So before we get started, you obviously need to be set up in your notebook. Go ahead and go to the next blank page. You should be on the left-hand side. Go ahead and label this paper paragraphs and put the date over in the corner. So paragraphs are hopefully something that you already kind of know about. Anytime we're reading a longer text like this, it's usually going to be broken up into these little sections. Each of these little blobs that you see right here is called a paragraph. And hopefully that's something you already knew. So if this text right here, we can't see it, but if it were about, say, dogs, each of these paragraphs would be about a different aspect or a different feature or maybe a different type of dog. So that as a reader, as I'm reading, I know what information fits together and what information is slightly different. As I'm reading, I know that if I see information in the same paragraph, it's going to be on the same sort of subtopics around dogs. And as I move from one paragraph to the next, I can expect that the information is going to change a little bit. And it's a little bit of a visual cue for me to know and be able to follow what the author's saying. So when you're reading a text, paragraphs are often organized into a certain fashion. A lot of times they're going to start with an introduction, and then they're going to have what are called body paragraphs or supporting paragraphs where they give you a bunch of information, and then they'll have a conclusion at the end to kind of wrap it up. So that's what a text is going to look like with paragraphs in it, but what does an actual paragraph itself have in it? Because when you sit down to read, each paragraph sort of is going to follow the same sort of structure. And authors do that because they know we as readers have come to expect it. So let this super cheesy guy, Mr. Heath, tell you a little bit more about paragraphs.
A paragraph is a group of sentences with the main idea. It starts with the topic sentence, which talks about the main idea. The other detailed sentences tell you more about the main idea. The way to end a paragraph is what else? The main idea. Now, here's a paragraph. Let's figure it out. We went on a trip to London. Topic sentence, that's the main idea. Oh, yeah. Took a tour of Buckingham Palace. Tells you more about the main idea. We walked through Piccadilly Circus and through Trafalgar Square. Details. I'd love to go back to London. You end with the main idea. You end with the main idea.
Alright, so in a paragraph, you're going to start with a topic sentence, and that's where you're going to sort of give most of the information about your topic so that the reader knows what you're talking about. Then you're going to start telling them your details, all the other pieces of information that you have. Once you've gotten those pieces of details across, then you're going to kind of wrap it up with a sentence that sort of closes this paragraph and transitions them and prepares them for the next paragraph that's going to come. Right? So now that we've got a good understanding of that, let's write just a little of that down. So when we talk about paragraphs, the text is going to be organized into paragraphs so that readers are able to follow the author's ideas. The paragraphs give us a visual of what information goes together and when the author is switching from a different piece of information. Just like we said, when a new paragraph starts, that usually means that the topic or the focus has changed. So if I were talking about dogs and one paragraph was specifically about what type of dog is best for your family, then might switch paragraphs and have the next paragraph talk about where to buy a dog, you know, the shelter or a breeder and those sorts of things. And so the paragraph would give me a visual cue that I'm still talking about dogs, but I'm going to be talking about a little bit different piece of information when it comes to dogs. When you look at each paragraph individually, it oftentimes can help you understand the text as a whole. If my whole text is about dogs, I can look at each paragraph to see what specific aspect of dogs that paragraph teaches me about, and that can give me a good insight into what kinds of things the author wants me to know about dogs in general, right? So if we're talking about the text as a whole, there are a few different types of paragraphs that you're going to see. You're going to see an introduction paragraph in most things that you read, and that's just a quick little paragraph that starts off the text, orients you to what you're talking about, and tells you what it's going to be about. Most of the paragraphs that are in a text are what we call supporting paragraphs, and those are going to explain the topic and give you some more details. Now, authors have to be careful in supporting paragraphs too, because even if they're taking all the same information and putting it together, they have to make sure that they put it in a logical way, in a way that's going to make sense to you as a reader. And that's something that's hard for authors sometimes, is to figure out what information to put first in their paragraph and what to put later, because it just kind of depends on the author and it depends on the reader. And then a lot of times texts are going to have conclusions, which is just a paragraph at the end that sort of wraps it all up and reviews the main points. You have to be careful when you're writing a conclusion that you don't just completely restate everything word for word. You kind of have to find a new and interesting way, maybe, sort of leave them with a question or leave them with a hook, but the conclusion sort of brings back up the most important points because it's the last thing the reader is going to read. So the author wants to make sure that they put the most important things in front of you one more time. So those are the things you remember. So within a text, we can have different types of paragraphs. But when we're looking at just one paragraph by itself, we're also going to have very similar types of different sentences. So in a paragraph, we're oftentimes going to start, just like a text starts with an introduction, an individual paragraph is going to start with a topic sentence, usually. Sometimes authors get a little bit more creative and put some other things at the beginning, but usually they're going to give you a topic sentence right off the bat that states the main idea of that paragraph. They tell you right off the bat what it is they're going to be talking about so that you know what kind of information to expect. And then just like when most of the passage is about the details, most of a paragraph is about the details too. Actually getting across to you the most important pieces of information so that you can understand what they're talking about. And then a lot of times they'll include a concluding sentence which wraps up the paragraph, and if there's more than one paragraph coming after it, it'll sort of transition you and give you a hint about what the next paragraph is going to be. Okay, so after that, we're not going to write any more notes, but we are going to write a couple of more things. So you need to go ahead and draw a line underneath it because you're going to use the rest of the page for this. Now, if you can fit what we're going to do next on the rest of the page, that's fine. If you need to take it on to the next page, that's totally fine too. So the easiest way to talk about paragraphs, honestly, is to write one. So you are going to be responsible for today for writing one well-written paragraph to show me that you know the parts, to show me that you can write a topic sentence, some detail sentences, and then a concluding sentence at the end. Right? So you're going to be writing something that kind of looks like this. We read this before in a previous video, but let me take it through you one more time. So this is about chemical and physical changes. So let's see if we can figure out where is our topic sentence, what are our detail sentences, and then what are our concluding sentence. So all matter, all things can be changed in two ways, chemically and physically. Now that first sentence right there gives me an overview of what this is going to be about. What is it about? Chemical and physical changes, right? Pretty simple. Both chemical and physical changes affect the state of matter. Okay, now we're getting into a little bit more of what it's about. Physical changes are those that do not change the makeup or identity of the matter. For example, clay will bend or flatten if squeezed, but it will still be clay. Okay, now we're really definitely getting into details. Changing the shape of clay is a physical change. It does not change the matter's identity. Chemical changes turn the matter into a new kind of matter that will be different properties. For example, when paper is burned, it becomes ash and will never be paper again. The difference between them is that physical changes are temporary and only last for a little while, and chemical changes are permanent, which means they last forever. Right? So we've got a lot of details about chemical and physical changes. Now look at that last sentence down there. Physical and chemical changes both affect the state of matter. Right? So that's sort of, again, wrapping up everything that I've just said and restating it one more time so that the reader remembers it. So if I were thinking about the three types of sentences, that first sentence, all matter, all things can be changed in two ways, chemically and physically. That's my topic sentence. I'm telling you what the whole paragraph is going to be about, chemical and physical changes. Most of it, like 90% of this paragraph, is just details. It's actually teaching me about chemical and physical changes. And then that last sentence, physical and chemical changes both affect the states of matter. It sort of sums up all of the things we've learned in that paragraph and leaves me with the most important ideas so that I remember them as I go away. Now I want you to look. The first paragraph and the last paragraph, they mean pretty much the same thing. They give me the same information, but they state it in two separate ways. If you try to take your topic sentence and just rewrite it and put it exactly in word for word as your last sentence, your reader's going to be super confused and think you're super lame because authors just don't do that. They find other creative ways to get their point across, right? So this right here, what I've done, is exactly the same thing that I'm asking you to do next. So here's the steps you need to follow. If you want to listen to me explain all the steps and then do it, you can. If you want to pause and do one at a time, that's totally fine too. So the first step you need to do is you need to pick a topic that you already know a lot about, because if you don't know a lot about it, it's going to be hard for you to write. We don't need to go do a whole bunch of research and make this take forever. Just pick something that you really, really know. Dogs, Mario Kart, volleyball, One Direction, flamingos, whatever. Whatever topic or thing you want to write about is totally fine. If you're stuck, think about a hobby you have, think about something you've learned in science or social studies lately, whatever is fine. Okay, so think about it, figure out your topic. Okay, so remember the first thing in a paragraph needs to be the topic sentence. So in that topic sentence, you need to introduce your topic almost as if the reader had never heard of it. Even if it's something super simple like dogs, you still want to make sure you say it in a way that'll make it clear to anybody who picks this paper up. So dogs are man's best friend. They've been loyal pets for thousands of years. Or Mario Kart is an exciting game that can be played on many different gaming consoles. Or volleyball is a great sport that gives you exercise and is fun too. Right? Just a little bit of an introduction so I know what you're talking about and your reader can follow along. Then once you've got your topic sentence, you need to give some details. You need between 2 and 4 sentences giving some details about your topic. Now, all of the topics that you probably have chosen have lots of things that you could say. You could write books probably about your topic. You just need to keep it short and simple. Pick the most important things that you want somebody to know so that they walk away having a little bit of an idea of what this topic was about. You've got to remember that you have to put them in an order that's going to make sense to the reader. So you probably can't talk about and list the different breeds of dogs before saying that there's different types of dogs. So if my paragraph was going to talk about dog breeds, I'd probably have to say there are many different types of dogs. And then I could go on to say such as poodles and beagles and Dalmatians, etc. Right? You got to think about what's logical. Then you need a concluding sentence. You need one sentence at the end that wraps it up. And remember, you cannot use just your first sentence again. That's lame. So make sure that you actually think about, okay, what did I say? What's my main point? And how could I say it just a little bit differently in that last sentence? Okay. Once you got your paragraph, then you need to do some color coding. So you need to track down 3 different colors of marker or crayon or pencil or highlighter or a mixture of everything, but you need 3 separate different writing utensils to underline with. So if you can find a crayon and a pencil and a highlighter, that works totally fine as long as they're 3 separate colors. So I want you to underline your topic sentence in one color. Then I want you to underline all of your supporting details in a second color. And then I want you to underline your concluding sentence in a third color. Right? So you should have 3 different colors on your paper. If your paper does not have 3 different colors on it or 3 different types of marking, I am not going to grade it because I'm not going to be able to tell what's what. Okay? So if you need to pause here to look at these directions and keep yourself going and make sure you've got it, that's fine. Do not move on until your paragraph is done. All right, so if you're moving on at this point, that means you've got a well-written paragraph about a topic on your paper. It's written, it's good to go, and it is color-coded. Okay, so the last thing we need to do is talk a little bit about, now that we've looked at the individual paragraph, now we want to look at, when you're looking at multiple paragraphs, how do you tell what paragraph is what and figure out why each paragraph is important. So for this, you are going to be using your Fluency Passage. So go ahead and pause this right now and get your Fluency Passage out in front of you, whichever one you're reading this week. Okay, we're going to use your Fluency Passage for this instead of the main article that you've been reading, because I'm going to ask you to do something with every single paragraph in the text. And if I made you do it with your main article, many of you would have to do like 20 or 30 different things because those articles have a lot of paragraphs in them. Most of your Fluency Passages should have no more than about 5. They should have at least 2 paragraphs and probably no more than 5 or 6 paragraphs at the absolute most. So the first thing I want you to do is take a second, and if you need to get out your expo marker and do this on your paper, you can. I want you to take a second and think about how many paragraphs are in this. Do you have 3 paragraphs? Do you have 2 paragraphs? Do you have 4? right? If I'm looking at this paper here, I have 5 different paragraphs. Now, this is where it's going to get a little bit tricky because the number of things you need to have on your paper is the exact same number of things that are in your paragraph. So I have 5 paragraphs in my Fluency Passage. That means I'm going to need 5 examples on my sheet. If you only have 4 paragraphs, then you only need 4 examples. If you only have 2 paragraphs, then you lucked out. You only need 2 examples on your paper. Right? So I'm going to take this paragraph by paragraph. So let's look at the first one. Rap is a popular music form. Its roots are in West Africa. Thousands of native tribes celebrated rituals and ceremonies. They celebrated with pounding drum beats, chanting, and dancing. Beginning in the late 1400s, African slaves were brought to America. They made up their own music with the rhythms they remembered from their homeland. So there's my first paragraph. Now I'm going to add it on my chart. So paragraph 1, the first thing I've got to do is figure out what type of paragraph is it. Is it an introduction? Is it a body paragraph, a supporting paragraph, or is it a conclusion? Right? This one was an introduction, right? Let's go back and look. Right? It told me what rap was. Rap is a popular music form, and it gave me a little bit of background information about it. So that's why I'm counting this as an introduction paragraph. Then I've got to tell me what the main point or the main idea is, and the main point of this paragraph was to tell me what rap is and to tell me how it started. So how does telling me what rap is and telling me how rap starts contribute to the whole text, right? It explains what rap music is so that you know what it is for the rest of the article. If they didn't come out and say what it was, I would be lost for the rest of it because I'd be going, wait a minute, what's rap? Then it tells me how it started in Africa and was brought to America, which helps me understand how it got here, and it helps me understand that it's older than it thinks. So when I think about rap music, the farthest I think back is maybe like the 60s, 70s, but this is talking about hundreds of years ago. It has its roots in these different styles of music. So that's something I didn't know, and it helps me understand maybe how rap has formed into what it is today. Right? Let's look at the second paragraph. Almost 500 years later, rap began in New York. It started in the South Bronx with teenagers talking in rhyme to the rhythm of a beat. In the early 70s, rap was first known as hip-hop. Rhythms and melodies from existing music were mixed with poems. All right, so the second paragraph, now we're getting into the body, right? We're getting into those supporting paragraphs. So paragraph 2 was a supporting paragraph for sure. And it gave me details about how raps started in the Bronx. So how does that contribute to the text? The fact that it started in the Bronx, well, it lets me know that rap started by mixing existing music with talking, and that shows me how rap of today got its style, because that's still what rap kind of is. So this tells me how rap from back then is related to rap today. Let's look at paragraph 3. Early rap was first a street art. Its tales reflected life in the inner cities of New York. Rapping was a popular addition to neighborhood block parties. Clubs began featuring rap music. Rap became popular with black teens in New York, Philadelphia, and Washington, D.C. So paragraph 3 was also kind of a supporting paragraph, and it told me how rap went from the street into the club. So how does that help me understand the text? How does that sort of attribute to everything else? Well, it explains that early rap was about life in the streets, which helps me understand why those topics are still in today's rap, right? Like a lot of times if you're rapping about stuff in today's world, if you listen to rap on the radio, it's still about many of those same topics that early rap in the 70s was about. Let's look at paragraph 4. In September 1979, Rapper's Delight was released by the Sugar Hill Gang. It was very successful. Record companies became interested in this new sound. As a result, rap music gained a wider audience. It became popular not only in the U.S., but also across the world's oceans as people started tuning into this new sound. So again, that's kind of a supporting paragraph. Now it's telling me about how rap became popular worldwide, not just in America, but how it spread to everywhere else. So why is that important? How does that help me understand the whole text? It talks about how a major music label picked up a rap artist, which explains how rap gained a wider audience and became popular today. So knowing how it spread and the fact that it became popular by artists and record labels picking it up tells me about how now today rap is so popular. If it weren't for those music labels, we might not have the rap that we have today. And the last paragraph, paragraph 5, not everyone became a rap fan, however. Critics were concerned about rap lyrics. Many of these lyrics reflected the hardships of inner city life and other harsh topics. Supporters argued that rap music has helped to bridge gaps among cultures. No one can deny that rap is a very popular form of music. It continues to grow and attract new fans. So here I do have some more information, right? It's telling me people's opinions about rap, which is something new. But look at these last few sentences. No one can deny that rap is a very popular form of music. It continues to grow and attract fans. That's almost conclusion-ish, right? It's starting to sort of wrap things up and restate some of the most important ideas. It's very popular, it's continuing to growing, and it's attracting fans. Those are things that have been stated in the text before, and now the author's bringing it back to remind me of what's really important, and that's that rap is popular. So that's why I call number 5 a conclusion paragraph, because it has those sentences in there that wrap it up and tell me a little bit about what was really important in that text. So the 5th paragraph was mostly about people's opinions of rap. How was it important? How did it affect the story as a whole? Well, it explained what people who like and dislike rap music think of it, and it says that the genre will continue to grow. It wraps up the information by restating that it's popular, right? So what I just did here with this passage is exactly what I'm asking you to do with your passage. So if you'll go over into your notebook and set up the same chart that I just showed you, you need to label this, oh, I'm sorry, I forgot to change that. That should say paragraph practice, not text structure practice. Ooh, bad Miss Abercrombie. So make sure it says paragraph practice, right? Not text structure. And then you need to put your Fluency Passage title, especially because this is different than the article you've been using. Please make sure you give me your title so that I know which one you're doing. And then you need a column. You need paragraph number. You need type. Is it an introduction, supporting, or concluding paragraph? You need the main point or topic for that passage, or that paragraph. And then you need a longer column that says how it contributes to the text. So how does that individual paragraph add to or change or, sort of shape your understanding of whatever the whole topic is as a whole? Right? Now, again, however many things you need to put on here is going to depend on how many paragraphs you have in your Fluency Passage. If you've got 2 paragraphs in your Fluency Passage, then you're going to need to do this twice. One for the first paragraph, one for the second. If you've got 5, unfortunately, you draw the short straw today. You need to do 5 because you've got 5 paragraphs. Right? So go ahead and put number 1 and do that, and then keep going for each of the paragraphs that you have in your passage. Okay? So one more look if you need it. You should have your notes over here. You should have your paragraph written, and you should have text structure practice set up and ready to go. Okay? So one last time, make sure you have your written and color-coded paragraph. Make sure you have your Fluency Passage out. Make sure you know how many paragraphs there are in your Fluency Passage, and then fill out the chart for each of those paragraphs. Decide what type it is. Is it an introduction, supporting, or concluding paragraph? What is that paragraph mostly about? And how does that paragraph contribute to the text as a whole? Okay? Just like usual, if you've got questions, feel free to raise your hand and ask. Otherwise, good luck, have fun, and we will see you next time.